my point was they're both extremes in my understanding, right? Like the position on the left, that's not the mainstream Islam position. In fact, that's not even something that is obligated. Did you see in the video where she says, is it obligatory in the faith? And she says, well, no, it's not, but I feel that I should do it. And on the other hand, that's the other extreme. But thank you for raising that.
I feel like even if that's the extreme, it's like a retroactive, like it's in light of what Western women wear at all. Like, shouldn't there be some inherent or like internally Muslim reason for it, other than like the fact that
we're going to end on that. Sorry. So sorry. My presentations are usually for about like an hour and a half, and I know that this was meant to be like 45 minutes. So I'm trying to like cut everything in a manner that would befit our time. So within the Islamic tradition, you have two. Remember, I told you the Quran was revealed over 23 years. There are two major chapters that talk about veiling in the Quran, okay? Chapter 33 and 24. The main things that you have to remember about them is that chapter 33 was revealed as the 4th chapter in Medina, and 24 was revealed as the 16th chapter in Medina. What this means is both of them were revealed after the Prophet goes to Mecca. This is significant for Muslims especially in here. Why? Because if you think of Islam as a religion that unfolds and laws come actually in Medina, right? So in Mecca, it's very simple. It's basic human rights. Verses are all about freeing the slaves, being good to your parents, not burying your daughters alive. Human rights are all in Mecca. First 13 years of Islam are all about basic human rights. The next 10 years talk about rules and like regulations and praying and fasting and covering and like all of the legal stuff actually happens in Medina. And why is this significant? Because Islam is a religion that addressed the need and the need of the day, right? So in Mecca, that wasn't his main concern. In Medina, when you had societies that were flourishing and the interaction of men and women started to occur in a different way than in Mecca. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, the verse that was revealed to him, and this is the verse that was shared, it says, tell the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their chastity. That is pure for them. God is aware of what you do, or they do. And tell the believing women to lower their gaze and guard their chastity, that they should not display their beauty and ornaments except what must ordinarily appear thereof, and that they should draw their himar, their veil, over their bosoms, and do not display their beauty except truth. And then it goes on. So the question here is, my question to you is, did anyone catch Sonia when she said, it does not say any specific part except at the bosom, right? And technically she's right? I mean, technically, does the Quran say that, like, specifically the word hair? Do you see that in there? It doesn't, right? And that's the most interesting part, right? Now, all the Muslim women in here are like, oh shoot, I'm taking this off right now. Like, what are you trying to say, right? So the term himar, right? This is a niqab, this is a burqa, and both of these are not in the Quran, right? And hijab is not in the Quran in this sense. The word hijab actually occurs when Mary is, the Virgin Mary, when she's sitting by herself. And so it says, and she took in seclusion from them a screen, and we sent to her our angel, and he represented himself to her as a man. Well-proportioned man just means as a good-looking man. So the word hijab actually is used as a screen, as something that protects you. So to some scholars, the idea of hijab is anything that allows you to present yourself in a respectable way, not necessarily covering the exact hair, okay? Now, I know some of the Muslims in here may disagree with me. My responsibility is to present opinions, okay? So please don't get upset. My responsibility is to present to you the opinions that exist, okay? Because that's my scholarly training. Now, for as far as himar, those who argue that no, it includes hair, they argue that actually the word himar at the time meant covering, your hair was part of that. Himar literally in Arabic, classical Arabic, was something that actually covered your head, okay? Not necessarily every single part of your head. So like some of your hair shows, it's not considered absolutely haram, for example, absolutely forbidden, right? So the first position is, hijab is anything that allows you to keep a distance from what is evil, right? What is evil in Islam? Premarital sex, right? Or a sin, excuse me, not evil. Or anything like, would allow you to give in to your impulse. And then the second position is that khimar actually is, and this is the mainstream position in Islam, the khimar is something that was practiced at the time of the Prophet, and the way we understand revelation is how the people of the time practiced it. Okay, so that's the second position. And then finally, you have someone like, Javed Ghamidi, who's a scholar out of Pakistan, and people disagreed with him, so he's controversial. But this is what he says. He says, head covering for women is a cherished part of Muslim social custom and tradition, but it is not a directive of divine law. The Quran states norms for male and female interaction in Surah Nur, and then in Surah Ahzab, there are special directives for wives of Muhammad and directives given to Muslim women to distinguish themselves when they were being harassed in Medina. The Quran has created a distinction between men and women who maintain family relations and relationships. So his point is, look, we have to look at the Quran as something that was revealed at the time in the context. And some of these verses were revealed specifically for the wives of the Prophet, and that was veiling the face veil. So, for example, Sheikha al-Kathiri, who's wearing the face veil, her argument is, some people believe that, yes, you have to do this. What he's saying is, no, the Quran actually only asked the wives of the Prophet to do that because they were seen as the mothers of that community, and that men should not look at them in any other way. So, as far as difference of opinion, he's saying that covering is, it's not necessarily just the head. It's this idea of protecting yourself and interacting with others in a respectful manner. So I know I said a lot of different things, right? So we started with this idea of looking at the world through the lens of not just postmodern feminism of this country, right? That we cannot superimpose our own understanding of what feminism is onto the rest of the world, right? So for a Muslim woman who considers herself a feminist, may say, well, I want equal rights for both men and women, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every single, like men and women have the same exact role, so to speak, right? And that's true of Orthodox Judaism and parts of Christianity that also feels that way, or aspects of Christianity, or denominations within Christianity that feel that way. Then you have this idea of, these three different perspectives, and why do they exist? Obviously, some of that exists because there's exegesis going on, right? Interpretation, and that exists for various faith traditions as well. Which exegesis do Muslims choose today? That's the big question, right? Which interpretation should Muslims take on? For Sonia, it would be, well, I live in a time and space where I don't think it's important for me to wear this. It's just important for me to act righteously and do good acts. And that's her, belief, and that's fine. But she also feels, I think where we all agree, is that there's a difference between following whatever your heart tells you, but having a sense of confidence that you don't have to change yourself just because someone else is asking you, or that there's a stereotype or a bias, so therefore you're not going to change what you believe in. So for most Muslim women in here, I want to end with actually a reflection from one of you about where you feel the hijab is in your life. Is it something that you do because it's just your connection with God, because the Quran says so, and so it's something you do because God says so? Or is it something beyond that? And that's kind of where I want to end. So that people hear from actual people who wear it. Did you want to say something? Okay.
So I just wanted to jump in. Although it's not extremely public knowledge, I'm a convert. My family is Catholic. It's still on the DL. Yeah, it's like, woo, not cool yet. But I speak from the price, but I've been on both sides. Like freshman year, I went out all the time. Like, I was in my club clothes, doing my thing on the dance floor, and then looking, I look hot. Like, I did all that. So I've been in both spectrums, so I kind of have, I've seen both mentalities. And for me, I'm not normally a hijabi for a million reasons. I just did today, so I'm participating. I feel compelled to wear it because the churches I go with is that the Quran doesn't ask you. God does ask you to cover and be modest. So, for God, and also because I love modesty. Yeah, and then I guess the other thing too is people think like, oh, it's this very depressive thing. I was a shopaholic, still am a shopaholic, love clothes, love dressing up. So it doesn't have to be this thing that like brings friend's dad, what should we say? It's not exactly, but it's like, and this is not to make anyone feel bad, it's like, you can be like a taxi cab or a family car. So is it something that anyone and everyone can see, or something that you're just choosing for yourself, for God, and for people that
Yeah, and I don't want to make this seem like a celebratory type of, like, it's, obviously there are challenges to the hijab, right? I mean, like, I grew up wearing it, and it's not, one can say, like, oh, I wear it, and it's great, and it's beautiful, and I'm just going to keep it real. Like, it was a struggle. For me, I don't do it because, a guy finds me less attractive or more attractive, because I think, like, a Muslim woman can look as beautiful with it, right? I mean, obviously, there's certain aspects of me that will be covered that maybe, if they weren't covered, someone may find me even more attractive. I get that. But as far as, why do I personally do it? It's my connection to my Lord. I believe that is what God wants of me, and that's my connection to Him, my spiritual connection to Him. Growing up, when I was in high school, like, I was basically like, I felt like it was organically part of high school culture, and anyone who knows what that's like, I mean, I'm sure, that you know about all the cliques, and, right, so I was a three-sporter. I played varsity basketball from freshman year. I ran track. And so, like, most people, I think, like, just knew me. They call me, like, the ninja girl, right? Because, like, I broke all the records, even till now. If you go to Niles West, the physical fitness records that you have for, like, the sit-ups, the push-ups, or whatever, I did, like, 1,000. I'm not trying to give myself a big head here. I know it doesn't look like it anymore, but the point is, I felt like people knew who I was, and I created that sense of, like, there was a community. Then September 11th occurred in my senior year of high school, and the same people, right? The same people who would, like, pre-game would be, like, totally cool, and, like, the same. We had, like, our team call, like, we actually did, like, this whole song, and, like, it was, like, it's like to rally prior to a game. Obviously, I was being left out of that, right? And all of that really didn't matter to me until, like, this one teacher, right, who was really nice. He comes up to me and he was like, I just need you to know that I'm here for you. And I was like, okay, is something wrong? He was like, I just need you to know that if your father is forcing you to wear that, and if he needs you, I'm here for you. And I know, like, you're laughing, but he said it with so much sincerity. And I asked him, where did you get that idea? And he said, well, he saw it last night, and it was on, like, I think it was on ABC, definitely on Fox, and he showed me the image. He actually brought the image. He printed it, just so that, like, he wanted to make sure, like, someone was there for me. And he showed me a picture of, like, this guy who was a Taliban, like, with a stick, okay? And he was, like, hitting his wife. I wish I had the image. And I said, thank you. Thank you. Because I knew, like, what am I going to say to him? Like, he really believes that this kind of stuff happens to, like, every Muslim. Then, there's this game, and a minute 34 seconds left into the clock. The same ref, mind you, who had seen me play for the last 3 years, the same ref stops the game, a minute 34 seconds left into the clock, and says, number 33, you're in violation of the IHSA Illinois rules for uniform code and conduct. Meaning, so the way I used to play was, like, I had a tighter hijab tucked in, and I had, like, sweats. And really, there was, like, no big difference, because there was another girl who wore tights because she had, like, a problem. And then someone else used to wear a bandana. So it was literally, like, I wasn't, like, this, like, person who stood out, like an eyesore or something. But he basically stops the game, and my coach, right, he's on the sideline, and I was so scared. I was like, oh man, like, I'm causing so many problems. And I heard him yelling on the top of his lungs. He was like, I know why you're doing this. I know why you're doing this. And they knew each other. And he was like, this is bigotry, and you know it. He's like, not on my court, not in this game. And they just went off, right? And then, obviously, I was let back into the game because he was like, we have all the paperwork to prove this shit, because we had to have paperwork, right, that I could play with this stuff on. So I go back into the game, we won.